Welcome to Anime Stark, where we're about to explore a tantalizing what-if scenario. What if Deku dated Mirko? In this Part 1 episode, we'll dive into the exciting world of My Hero Academia and unravel the unexpected twists in the love lives of our heroes. Buckle up for a thrilling ride, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all things anime at Anime Stark. Let's dive into this exciting journey of imagination. The rain fell on the city of Muzatafu. It wasn't very heavy rain, and most people stayed in their homes, enjoying the peacefulness it brought. But some people had things to do and couldn't stay home. Izuku Midoriya was one of those people. Izuku stood under a small waterfall from a river, feeling the water on his body. It wasn't a strong river, just a gentle flow, but it was enough for Izuku to enjoy his alone time. He could forget about the beatings Kacchan wanted to give him and the fact that he was quirkless. It was a moment when he could smile without fear. He started jumping in the water, ignoring the burns from Kacchan. His radiant smile seemed endless. He even jumped into the lake the river led to, having fun swimming carefree. He knew his mother would scold him for playing in the rain, but he didn't care, he just wanted to have fun. But then, Izuku heard a loud thunderclap, and reality came back to him. He quickly left the lake and looked at the sky. The rain was getting much heavier. Izuku ran around, searching for shelter from the rain and thunder. He thought that angering the thunder would make it send a lightning bolt at him, which terrified him even more. He entered a local park and found a small, pretty kiosk with a large enough roof to keep lightning at bay. Izuku got under the kiosk but struggled to sit on the bench due to his short height, leaving his legs hanging. He noticed a girl, about 13 years old, entering the kiosk. She was wearing a wet school uniform and had bandages on her face, which surprised Izuku. Why would a girl her age have wounds on her face? She also had rabbit ears, a fluffy tail peeking out from her miniskirt, and a tan complexion. The girl glanced at Izuku for a moment, and he felt nervous, hiding in his raincoat. However, she simply ignored him and sat on the other side of the bench, shaking off the water. Silence filled the air, with only the sound of the rain, the river flowing, and the lake splashing. Izuku felt nervous and started sneezing from the cold. After some time, he decided to sneak a look at the girl. First, he saw her bare feet. She had taken off her shoes and socks. His gaze traveled up to her lap, where her open bag revealed several chocolate bars and a soda can. Soda and chocolate, Izuku thought. He raised his eyes to her face. She was eating a piece of chocolate while looking at the lake. She's pretty. I feel like I've seen her somewhere before. Izuku's shoe slipped off, falling to the ground. He realized it and was about to reach for it, but the girl leaned over, picked it up, and handed it to him with a smile covered in chocolate. "Take it," she said. Thank you," Izuku nodded, feeling shy. Again, silence filled the space. Izuku put on his shoe and curled up in a fetal position. The girl continued enjoying her snacks. However, Izuku decided to break the silence. Hey," he looked at her with a raised eyebrow. She shook her head. "No," she replied. Sorry, I must have been mistaken," mumbled the nervous green-haired boy. The girl stood up as the rain began to subside and moved towards the kiosk's exit. However, she looked back at Izuku, noticing he was wearing a preschool uniform under his raincoat. "I guess it's fitting," she started, wearing a smile. "A distant thunder in a cloudy sky. In case it rains. Would you stay by my side?" With that last question, the girl turned and left, leaving Izuku stunned and unsure how to react. "That's the phrase my teacher taught me this morning," Izuku whispered as he watched the girl walk away. Maybe she was taught the same. Another rainy day, and Izuku found himself caught in the rain again, this time before the school bus arrived. He didn't mind missing kindergarten, as it meant avoiding Kacchan's beatings and his classmates' taunts. Izuku wished it would rain every day, but he knew that wasn't possible. Despite getting scolded by his mother, Izuku decided to go to the park to play in the rain once more. However, this time, the rain got heavier, and he had to seek shelter in the same kiosk. And there she was again, the same girl from yesterday. Izuku approached the kiosk once more, and the girl looked a bit surprised to see him. She had more bandages and band-aids on her face and body, as well as a small bruise on her leg and a little blood on her nose. "Good morning," she greeted, maintaining her smile, wiping the blood away to not scare the boy. "Good morning," he replied. Good morning," the green-haired boy said as he sat on the bench. Once again, silence filled the air. Izuku couldn't understand how, but this silence was very pleasant. It was different from Kacchan's constant shouting and his classmates' teasing. It was peaceful. Hours passed, and the rain hadn't stopped. Izuku decided to take out his hero analysis notebook to review everything, adding some data about heroes he hadn't included before. "Hey," the girl called out, and Izuku turned to her, feeling a bit nervous. "Aren't you supposed to be in class?" Izuku felt nervous but noticed that she was wearing a school uniform too. "And what about you?" He pointed at her uniform. "I'm skipping class," she stretched while maintaining her confident and wild smile. "Now that I think about it, I'm hungry." She pulled an overwhelming amount of chocolate candies from her backpack, which made Izuku back away, somewhat frightened. "I guess you're surprised," she said. "Having soda and chocolates in the morning," Izuku mumbled. "So much sugar isn't good for your health." "Hey, who do you think you are to give me orders?" She crossed her legs while looking at him. "You know a lot for a kindergarten kid." My mom is a nurse," he explained. "Well, tell your mom to stop scolding people for eating sweets. We're humans, and we all have a right to our indulgences," she said while popping chocolate into her mouth. "I would, but I want to get my full allowance." "Thanks anyway," Izuku replied. "PFFF, ha ha ha," the girl burst into laughter with a mouth full of chocolate. "I admit, that was a good one." Izuku smiled slightly, but then silence returned. Some time passed, and the rain lessened. The boy stood up and, with a small hop, landed on the ground. I have to go." "Are you going to kindergarten?" she asked. "And no, the bus has already left, and if I enter now, they'll call my mom. So, I'll just wait for her at home." "Your mom isn't coming to pick you up?" She raised an eyebrow. She's busy with work, but there's nothing to worry about. Thanks to All Might, the crime rate is too low, and normally, I go to and from school on the bus. But she dropped me off this morning. Anyway, goodbye." "Goodbye, kid," she waved. As Izuku walked away, he heard a loud hey. He quickly turned around and, reflexively, caught something that was about to hit his chest. It was a chocolate bar. "Maybe we'll see each other next time it rains," she said with that same smile. Izuku smiled faintly and nodded to her words. "Yeah. Maybe." Those were months filled with rain, without a doubt. It rained almost every day. Izuku would wake up and pray for rain, just so he could go and have fun with that girl, whose name he still didn't know. Miraculously, it rained, and Izuku could skip school. He could escape Kachan and the bullies, if only for a while, to spend time in that kiosk with the fun girl, even though she towered over him. There were moments when neither of them said anything, just sitting there eating the chocolates she brought under the cold rain. Izuku had even gained a few pounds, which surprised his mother because he had always been thin. There were whole hours when they didn't speak, just exchanging glances from the corner of their eyes. Days passed, and Izuku and the girl were getting closer. Every day, they sat a little closer to each other. It wasn't much, just a little closer, but it was enough to create a bond between them. At school, Izuku genuinely didn't care about Kachan and his ego. To the point that when the blonde wanted to attack him, Izuku simply ignored him. Katsuki liked it when Izuku showed weakness, it satisfied his ego. However, when the green-haired boy only had a bored expression, it was different. So, Katsuki decided to leave him alone for a while. The blonde knew that sooner or later, Izuku would return to being the same old Deku. "Do you want to be a hero?" Izuku was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard the girl with rabbit ears speak. The young boy simply lowered his gaze. "I know it's very unrealistic. But I'd like to save people. I don't like seeing people suffer, and I feel helpless not being able to do anything. So, I want to be a hero to at least try to help them, to give them a reason to smile." "That sounds like cheap heroism out of a fairy tale book about princesses and dragons," she said while biting another chocolate. "I know it's not very realistic. But there are many people who witness what happens and do nothing about it. I refuse to be part of that group of people." "You're a smart kid, despite being short," she smiled slightly. "Maybe you'll awaken a quirk later because I doubt they'll let you into an academy without one. I've tried everything. I tried moving objects with my mind, and I even ate a jalapeno covered in hot sauce to try and spit fire, but nothing works. Keep trying, someday the sweet reward will come," she said, smiling again. I will." Hours passed, and the rain hadn't stopped. Izuku had fallen asleep and almost toppled over, but the girl had caught him and laid him down on the bench, using her backpack as a pillow for him. "Silly kid," she said, laughing lightly as she watched him sleep. "If you doze off like this when I'm not around, there will be no one to keep you from getting hurt." Izuku didn't respond because he was asleep. The albino girl looked at the lake again, watching the raindrops fall. Then, she glanced at her arm, covered in bandages once more. Her smile faded for a moment before she let out a sigh. Hey! Without looking at Izuku, she began to speak. Do you think it's too late for me? There was no response to that question. Here. Izuku was surprised when he received the gift wrapped in gift paper. The girl just sat back on the bench. Is it for me? No, it's for the fish in the lake, she said sarcastically. Of course, it's for you, open it. Izuku carefully unwrapped the gift, wanting to save the wrapping paper. When he fully opened it, he found an All Might hoodie, which left him speechless for a moment. It's awesome, Izuku admired it with stars in his eyes. I didn't know your size, so it might be a bit big, she shrugged. Maybe if you exercise, you'll stop being a shrimp, and it'll fit perfectly. Izuku pouted but didn't say anything. He just put on the hoodie with a smile. It reached down to his calves, the sleeves were too long, and the hood covered his face completely, but he still enjoyed wearing it. Thank you very much, the boy said, smiling. You're welcome, she smiled the same way. Just don't break it, it cost me quite a bit. I promise not to break it, he said with confidence before lowering his head slightly. I wish I had something to give you. Nah, don't worry about it, shrimp, she dismissed it. As long as you smile for a moment, I'm good. The girl took a little while to realize the implications of her words, and by the time her celebration clicked, she noticed that Izuku was staring at her intensely, his face completely red. The boy quickly turned around and covered his head with the hoodie of the jacket. The albino girl's face turned red as well, and she exclaimed, Don't you dare misinterpret that. Izuku was leaving his kindergarten, a small burn on his arm courtesy of Kachan. However, he couldn't wait for the rain to come again so he could meet that girl once more. But as they were leaving, they saw a crowd at the adjacent school building. Their school had 2 branches on the same street, kindergarten and elementary. A teacher noticed her students looking in that direction and intervened. Come on, kids, we need to keep moving. Sensei, what's happening? Katsuki asked. It's just a problem with 2 students, but everything is being resolved. Izuku couldn't help but look in that direction for a split second, noticing a very familiar face, a face covered in bruises. Izuku's eyes widened at the sight, his face filled with surprise. However, he couldn't go and check what he had seen because his teacher forced him onto the bus. From that day on, it didn't rain for a long time. Deku-kun. 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 Izuku snapped out of his thoughts and quickly turned to the front, realizing that the entire Class 1A was looking at him, especially Uraka, Ida, and their teacher. Are you okay, Midoriya-san? Asked the literature teacher, Snipe. Why yes, I'm fine, sensei, Izuku said with a nod. I was just remembering something. Ah, I see. Carry on with the reading. Sure. Izuku held his book, one titled The Little Prince. Where were we? And then I'm the dumb one, ha ha ha, Denki burst into laughter after that. You still are, Jiru said with an eye roll. We were here, Midoriya-kun, Ida pointed to a page. Thanks, Ida-kun, Izuku said with a small smile. Read, Midoriya, Izuku cleared his throat and began to read. Then the fox appeared. Good morning, said the fox. Good morning, the little prince responded politely as he turned around, but he saw nothing. I'm here, said the voice, under the apple tree. Who are you? Asked the little prince. You are very beautiful. I'm a fox, said the fox. Come and play with me, the little prince proposed. I'm so sad. I can't play with you, said the fox. I'm not tamed. Oh. I'm sorry, said the little prince. But after some thought, he added, what does tame mean? You're not from around here, said the fox. What are you looking for? I'm looking for people, said the little prince. What does tame mean? Men, said the fox, have guns and hunt. It's very bothersome. They also raise chickens. That's their only interest. Are you looking for chickens? No, said the little prince. I'm looking for friends. What does tame mean? It's a forgotten thing, said the fox. It means to create bonds. Create bonds? Yes, said the fox. To me, you're just like 100,000 other little boys. And I don't need you. And you don't need me. To you, I'm just like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, we'll need each other. You'll be the only boy in the world for me. I'll be the only fox in the world for you. Izuku stopped reading. Thank you, Midoriya-kun, Snipe smiled under his mask. Can you tell me what you understood from that? I understood that taming means creating bonds, Denki said. Most of the class burst into laughter at that, but Izuku just sighed. Another sunny day in his life. Another regular day at UA, quite boring as usual for Izuku. The internships had ended, and the green-haired boy had learned to control one for all, but only at 5%. Even though that was enough for now, they had final exams in 3 weeks, and Izuku had no clue how to prepare. Written exams posed no problem, but he was uncertain about the physical part. Mindlessly throwing punches wouldn't cut it. Izuku had just 2 weeks left before the exam. He'd studied enough, but he didn't have a mentor to teach him martial arts or a fighting style. Going solo could lead to injuries, so he resigned himself to boredom until the exam day arrived. Izuku gazed at the grammar class with boredom. He enjoyed studying, but lately, he lacked motivation, especially knowing the impending exam. All Might had refused to train him, calling it cheating, and Izuku stopped listening after the "I won't train you." Izuku was at a loss. The stress was taking a toll on him. He hadn't slept all night and had terrible dark circles under his eyes. He wished some foolish villain would attack UA directly, giving him something else to think about besides the exam. "All right, class, that's it for today," Midnight said, addressing her students. "You can head home. Remember, you have 2 weeks of vacation before the exams. Don't waste them playing video games, instead, train your mind and body as much as possible." Midoriya. Izuku snapped out of his thoughts and looked at Midnight. "What's up, sensei?" "Stay a moment, I need to talk to you privately." "Midoriya, you jerk." Mineta got annoyed. "So you're on an adventure." "Mineta," Izuku moved like a zombie, staring intently at the short guy with balls on his head. "Do I look like I'm in the mood for your nonsense?" Many were surprised by the aggressive response, and Bakugo chuckled. Mineta was about to retort, but Izuku pointed to the door as the 5% of one for all manifested. "Get out of here before I throw you out the window." And so, the short guy ran away faster than Speedy Gonzales, hoping to escape. Uraka was concerned about her friend's demeanor, but Ida advised her to let him rest, so she left with him, waving goodbye to the boy. Once the classroom was empty, Izuku stood in front of Midnight while packing his books in his bag. "What's going on, sensei?" Izuku asked, looking tired. The boy received a light slap that almost knocked him to the floor. Midnight crossed her arms and stared at him. "I don't want to see you using your quirk without permission again, understood?" "Why yes, sensei," Izuku replied, nodding quickly. "Well, now," Midnight smiled, slightly concerned. "I noticed you're very tired. Did you not sleep well last night?" "And no, how did you know?" Thanks?" Izuku didn't know how to respond to that. "Listen," she placed her hands on the green-haired boy's shoulders, "I understand you wanted to push yourself, but you can't prioritize exams over your health. Even Plus Ultra has its limits." "But Aizawa said those who fail won't go to the camp." "It's a lie, the entire trip has already been paid for, and even if everyone fails, they'll still go." Izuku blinked in surprise. "I think I just made a fool of myself." Midnight chuckled lightly, then gently stroked the teenager's hair and took his bag, revealing some sort of voucher? "Here, it's a gift from me, so you can relax tonight and sleep like a baby." Izuku exclaimed in amazement when he saw what it was. "Sensei, this is a voucher for a VIP night at the most expensive spa in Musetafu." "You're welcome," she said with a smile. "Originally, this was going to be my gift to the best performing students in the exam, but I think you need it more." "How did you get this?" "This spa is extremely expensive." "Midoriya, didn't they teach you that it's impolite to ask about the origins of gifts?" "I'm sorry." "Well, since you asked, I'll tell you anyway. I'm a very frequent customer at that spa. This beautiful skin doesn't take care of itself, you know. They gave me several as gifts in exchange for appearing in a promotional commercial." "I see the salary of a professional must be very good," Izuku thought before putting away the voucher. Thank you very much, sensei." "You're welcome, kid," she poked his forehead with 2 fingers. "Now go and relax. I don't want to see one of my 2 favorite students in this state." "Favorite students?" "Yes, you and Koji are the quietest and least annoying. I used to like Tokoyami too, but everything changed when I found out he eats worms." Izuku decided it was best to leave, quickly turned on his heels, and walked away briskly. Midnight laughed and left for her appointment with Aizawa. Izuku was on a train heading to the spa location. He had called his mother so she wouldn't worry about his absence. Without waiting to get home and change, he was going straight to the spa to relax, following his sensei's instructions. Perverts. Shouts and punches were immediately heard on the train. People moved away from the smoke cloud that had formed. The unmanly cries of a man frightened Izuku. When the smoke cleared, a woman stood up, fixing her hair, and at her feet was a man who had been heavily beaten. Ha ha, they try to touch the tigress's tail, but when she attacks, they can't handle the claws. You're losers. She mocked them. Izuku wasn't innocent enough not to understand what had happened. Those men had tried to grope that woman, so he decided to stay quiet and look the other way. He wasn't going to defend a couple of perverts. However, the woman took her bag and moved away from those men, ending up right next to him. Izuku couldn't help but glance at her and blushed because of how beautiful she was. But there was something about her that seemed familiar. What are you looking at? She asked, having to raise her head a little to see him since he was taller than her. Izuku looked away, both because of how irritated she seemed and the looks he received from the other passengers, along with their comments. He saw what just happened and still has the nerve to look. Pervert. And look at those dark circles. He's probably a desperate virgin. Izuku felt embarrassed about it, and as soon as the train stopped, he got off as quickly as he could and walked in the direction of the spa. Everything seemed fine. Until he realized that the same woman was walking behind him in the same direction. He didn't even dare to look over his shoulder. He continued until he finally found the spa, which was quite luxurious. He entered quickly, hoping to lose that woman. But as fate would have it, the woman who had walked near him entered the same spa. Izuku could only break into a cold sweat as she approached the reception desk. He noticed that the girl had a voluptuous body but also had muscles, so he preferred not to get into trouble. Finally, a tall man with huge muscles, black hair, and a white suit appeared. Izuku felt a bit intimidated by his presence, but the man showed a big smile and shook Izuku's hand. Hello. Delighted to have you at my spa. My name is Kronk, he said, taking out a tray with empanadas? Would you like some? They're chicken. Do I have to pay for them? Oh no, they're complimentary for everyone who comes. Izuku took one and took a bite, immediately experiencing a sort of culinary ecstasy. He fell to the ground unconscious and, within 3 seconds, stood up with a smile. They taste incredible, although they have a lot of onions. Understood. I'll try to make them better next time, Kronk noted what Izuku said. Ahem, the albino woman fake coughed to get Kronk's attention. Oh, of course, Kronk left the tray on the reception table and stood up straight. What can I do for you? The usual, the albino said as she stretched. My legs are hurting from all the work. What? Izuku was confused by that. Yes, but I'll need your payment in advance. The woman reached into her bag to get her money, but she couldn't find it. What? She quickly searched her bag but found nothing. Darn it, how did this happen? Is something wrong? Kronk asked, annoyed by the question. I was robbed. Probably on the train while I was beating up those perverts. Oh, I'm sorry, Kronk put a hand on her shoulder. I'm really sorry that happened to you. Would you like a chicken empanada? No, I'm good, she crossed her arms, annoyed. Can I use your phone to call a friend to come pick me up? Of course, Kronk nodded. The albino woman went to get the phone, and Kronk looked at Izuku. And your friend? I have this. Izuku took out the coupon that Midnight had given him. Kronk was surprised to see it and took it eagerly. Where did you get this? We only give these to VIP Deluxe Premium members. One of them gave it to me Midnight, to be specific. Ah, I see, Kronk examined the coupon. But this is for 2 people. Why didn't you bring someone? Izuku blinked in confusion. Had he been so tired that he didn't notice it was for 2 people? I didn't realize. Well, you can still use it, but it would be a waste for just 1 person. Izuku glanced to the side, noticing the cute woman with rabbit ears trying to call someone, but no one was answering. His brain clicked, and he quickly whispered something in Kronk's ear, making him smile. Excellent, go ahead while I talk to her. Kronk pointed to a door with a sign that said men and entered it. Rumi. The woman called Rumi put down the phone and looked at the muscular man. What, Kronk? I'm trying to call Ryuko, but that darn girl isn't answering. It won't be necessary, he said with a smile. The boy who just came used a coupon for 2, so you and he will have a free night here. Rumi blinked for a moment before letting out a growl. That perverted brat. He must be up to something, she said before looking at the women's door. However, it would be a sin not to take advantage of this. Well, what are you waiting for, Kronk? Attend to me as usual. Kronk smiled and led Rumi to the women's room. Izuku sat on a massage bed, patiently waiting for his masseur. The place smelled incredible and was quite relaxing, so much so that Izuku nearly dozed off 3 times. He was only in his boxers, covered with a white sheet. I'm here. Kronk appeared, cracking his neck. It's time for your massage, my friend. Afterward, I'll do your nails, cut your hair, moisturize your skin, clean your teeth, and much, much more. Izuku swallowed hard at that and got comfortable. Kronk stood next to him and began by taking his head. What are you? Kronk turned Izuku's head in both directions, making bones crack. Ouch, Izuku exclaimed with some pain but then was surprised to feel less tense. Wow. How did you do that? It's my job, now stay still, you have a knot in your back, Kronk said. Izuku grumbled with some pain as Kronk worked on his back, but soon the pain turned into a rather pleasant sensation. Wow. I feel so much better. This is due to stress, Kronk exclaimed as he massaged Izuku. Is there something that has been bothering you lately? School exams. I saw your uniform, and it looks like the one from UA. Are you studying to be a hero, or are you in some other course? I'm studying to be a hero. Well, I wish you the best of luck, he said as he massaged Izuku. I wanted to be a hero, but my dad didn't like it and didn't want to give me a thumbs up. That must have hurt. Not as much as other things. My first wife turned into a squirrel. That's tough, buddy. Izuku left the spa and felt alive. His dark circles were no longer as prominent, his skin was soft and glowing, his posture was firm and full of life, and his nails had been cut and cleaned. He had taken a dip in a jacuzzi, and his hair had been styled. The boy felt like a new person. Ah, thank you so much, Midnight Sensei, Izuku said, smiling as he stretched. I should save up to bring my mom here sometime. You. Izuku quickly turned, seeing Rumi emerging from the spa, approaching him with an angry look. Come here. You're going to explain everything now. Izuku, upon seeing an angry, muscular woman with an intimidating aura, did what any future symbol of peace and brave hero student would do. He activated his quirk and ran away at top speed like a coward. The albino didn't hesitate to chase after him with big leaps, thanks to her quirk, which allowed her to do so with ease. Izuku Midoriya had done many things in his life, like facing a muddy villain to save Katsuki, fighting a Nomu to rescue Tsuyu, confronting Todoroki to save Todoroki? Yes, that, and he also faced Stain to save Ida. And now, he was running as fast as he could from a woman who was chasing him. How can she jump so fast? He wondered. It's not that he was afraid of her, she wasn't even half as scary as Stain. He just didn't want trouble with anyone. He wanted to go to sleep in his cozy bed with All Might sheets. But there was a crazy lady with rabbit ears chasing him. I caught you, she declared. Izuku received a strong kick in the back, which sent him into an alley. It wasn't strong enough to break any bones, but it was definitely going to hurt tomorrow. He got up and leaned against a wall, but a leg blocked his escape. All right, you pervert. What did you expect to achieve with that? The annoyed albino asked. Izuku felt his brain disconnect for a moment before realizing what was happening. An expression of anger, annoyance, and frustration appeared on his face. Are you serious? Izuku exclaimed. You chased me for half an hour just to ask me that? Don't act innocent, you damn pervert. She retorted. I know you're kind. You wanted to have me in your bed and paid me for the night. Do you think I'm some kind of prostitute or something? No, I'm just being key. Izuku didn't finish speaking as he received a knee to the groin, leaving him lying on the ground. Rumi then placed her foot under his chin, forcing him to look at her. Next time, try seducing some cheap slut you find on the street, because you won't get anything from me, you sicko, she said. She turned to leave, leaving Izuku humiliated on the ground. Was this how his incredible night was going to end? Being humiliated by a stranger? What would mom say about this? Izuku's mind wandered. In Izuku's mind Inko stood there, looking at Izuku with a small smile. However, that smile vanished, turning into an annoyed grimace. She pointed at her son and shouted, Get up, you son of a bitch, because mommy loves you. Back to reality activating 5% of his power, Izuku got up and ran toward the woman. She heard his steps and quickly turned around. Do you still want to be Humi? Slap. The albino fell silent after receiving a slap, but Izuku didn't stop there. He was furious, very furious. All the stress he had relieved with the massage had turned into rage. The green-haired boy took a breath to speak angrily. Listen to me, you idiot. I don't know if you think you're the queen of the universe or the most important person in the world, but you know what? You're not. I was just trying to be kind to you because I felt sorry for you. But now, I regret it because I realize that, for some reason, your ego is too high to believe that everyone wants something with you. I just wanted a peaceful night, and now you've ruined it. I hope you're happy because I definitely am not, you crazy person. Izuku left the alley, but before he went, he glanced back at the rabbit girl. Oh, and by the way, you're not even that beautiful with those muscles. You look more like a transvestite than a girl. And with that, Izuku quickly left, leaving Rumi standing there, trying to process everything that had happened. What just happened? The rabbit woman blinked, returning to reality. The next day Izuku felt 100%. He had slept perfectly the night before, his back didn't hurt, and he felt like a new person. He jumped out of bed and landed on the floor, and memories of the previous night came flooding back. Oh, damn, he muttered. He left his room and went to the bathroom to wash his face. I shouldn't have been so harsh on her. Nonsense. A small All Might on his shoulder chimed in, dressed like the devil. She kicked you in the balls. She deserves everything that happened, Shonen. Another tiny All Might appeared on his other shoulder, dressed like an angel. Hitting a lady and insulting her is not what a real man or hero does, Shonen. You shouldn't hold grudges, it will make you bitter for the rest of your life. The angelic All Might said. Do you want to end up like Aizawa? The demonic All Might was about to say something, but Izuku covered his mouth with his finger. No, he has a point, the pensive green-haired boy mentioned. Izuku, someone's looking for you. His mother called out. Izuku quickly finished brushing his teeth and left the bathroom. He walked into the living room to find the woman from last night leaning against the wall in a revealing hero costume. She noticed Izuku looking at her and stood up firmly in front of him, meeting his gaze. Izuku gestured for his mother to come in, and she did, but she watched from the doorway. Why are you here? Izuku asked, annoyed. Are you here to attack me? She sighed and ran a hand through her face with embarrassment. I came to apologize, she said. I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have attacked you for no reason. I went too far. It wasn't very appropriate behavior. Izuku blinked for a moment. Was this the same crazy woman who was chasing him last night? He was sure someone had messed with her brain, it was just too impossible. However, her apologies sounded genuinely sincere, so he simply sighed in annoyance. Fine, no hard feelings, he nodded. Now, please go. It's 6 a.m, and I have to be in class by 8. Hey, kid, she looked at her watch. It's 7:30. Darn it. Izuku entered his house, slammed the door in the woman's face, then leapt over the dining table using one for all. After landing, he rolled on the floor and rushed to the bathroom. Izuku took 10 minutes to shower. Well, he just splashed water, used soap, and then splashed water again, get dressed, and grab his books. He then said goodbye to his mother with a kiss on her forehead and left his home. As he stepped out, he was about to collide with the albino woman but stopped just in time. What are you still doing here? I have to get to class. That's where I was heading. She turned and crouched down. Hop on my back. What? Woo! She screamed with excitement as she jumped from building to building at high speed. Why did I agree to this? Izuku thought as he clung tightly to the woman. Don't worry, kid. We'll get there in the blink of an eye, she assured him. Thanks for the ride, though it wasn't necessary. I owed it to you for what I did to you last night. Why did you apologize in the first place? Izuku asked curiously. You don't seem like the type of person who apologizes when they do something wrong. Well, after you insulted me, I thought about it and realized I had gone too far. Quite a bit, she sighed. I'm sorry, but that day had been pretty stressful. Stressful? Yes, I guess you've figured out that I'm a professional hero. She pointed to her costume. Seriously, you didn't realize it? I thought you were some WWE fighter, Izuku nervously replied. Grrr. She growled in frustration before continuing to leap. As I was saying, I'm a professional hero, and I'm tired of all the damn paperwork I have to do since that idiot Stain influenced the villains. Is it really that much? Yes, on top of that, I have to patrol for 10 hours because there are too many villains causing trouble on the streets. She grumbled with annoyance. It's too stressful. I couldn't even get any sleep last night. Izuku felt bad hearing that. She was in a situation quite similar to his own. I'm sorry for insulting you that way. I didn't know you were going through such a tough time. Don't worry, I deserved it. And it's not like you were entirely wrong about some things. I was wrong about everything, he shook his head. You had a point. I ruined your night. I'm sorry. Izuku sighed at this. How had he come to this point in his life? It's okay. I apologize for calling you a transvestite, he said, feeling embarrassed. I only said it because I was angry. So, do you find my muscles attractive? She asked, looking down at him with a teasing smile. Izuku blinked for a moment. The albino's smile was replaced by an old smile, one he hadn't seen in a long time. It felt oddly familiar. Hey, why are you staring at me like that? Huh? Oh, sorry. He shook his head. It's just that. You seem really familiar. Have we met before? Well, yesterday, silly. No, I mean way before that. Now that you mention it, you do look a bit familiar. She blinked when it hit her. I remember now. Really? You're the guy who completely wrecked himself at the sports festival. Izuku had a nervous tick in his eyebrow at that. Why does everyone recognize me for that? Because it was brutal how you ended up destroying yourself, ha ha ha. She started laughing. Seriously, I couldn't stop laughing when you crashed into the wall. That was because I didn't have good control over my power. I can use it now without hurting myself. But? She raised an eyebrow while continuing to leap. You said but. I can't fight, Izuku sighed. The UA final exams are in 2 weeks, and I'm still throwing punches wildly. That's why I was so stressed when I went to the spa. Are you worried about failing? Not as much as before, but I really don't want to fail the exam. I feel like I'd be disappointing someone very important to me. Rumi stopped smiling wildly and looked at Izuku with a calm gaze for a moment. The image of the green-haired boy changed into that of a small child with 2 black rabbit ears. Finally, they arrived at UA. Izuku was about to get off and thank the woman for the ride, but she started running toward the academy. Hey, what are you doing? I'm going to do you a favor, kid, she grinned wildly. But first, I need to talk to the chess-loving rat. Let's go. Izuku simply held on to her to avoid falling. He didn't object since, even if he didn't admit it, he was curious to see what the woman would do. By the way, what's your name? The albino asked while running. I'm Izuku Midori Izuku almost fell when she suddenly turned sharply. Well, Mito Squirrel, I'm Rumi Usajiyama, but everyone knows me as Mirko. She's Mirko? In all his life, Izuku had never seen but had heard of the only female hero who had made it to the top 10. She often skipped interviews and rarely appeared on screen. Izuku had never seen her. The green-haired boy couldn't say anything because Rumi accelerated the pace toward Nezu's office, leaving him silent and holding on. Was that Midoriya? Shinsu wondered as he watched the boy being carried by a woman. I'm not paid enough for this, Aizawa said, bored. Wait, you get paid? All Might asked, surprised. Nezu was usually a calm creature, a small humanoid mouse who loved tea, chess, coffee, and psychologically tormenting his students. But all his calm went out the window when someone kicked down his door, sending it crashing to the ground. Hey, Nezu, exclaimed Mirko as she burst in with Izuku on her back. I need to talk to you. Nezu took a deep breath, remembering when she was a UA student, the one who caused the most problems and stress. She had graduated, and Nezu had prayed to every existing god, without exception, that she'd never return to the academy. Yet here she was, making him question his faith. Hello, Mirko, nice to see you, Nezu said with a fake smile and a twitch in his eye. Hello, Nezu, still the same little rodent, I see. The director's twitch worsened. Well, I've come to ask you a favor. Tell me. Do you see the boy on my back? She pointed at Izuku, who had spiraling eyes. I plan to take him with me for 2 weeks of hero training, but I need your permission to justify his absence. I'm sorry, but in 2 weeks, it's the exam, and young Midoriya needs to prepare. Oh, I guess I'll have to train him at UA, then, Mirko said with an evil grin. Permission granted. Nezu quickly stood up. I'll give him all 10s in his grades until the day of the exam. Really? Even more. If you take the boy, I'll give you 100 yen. He pulled a bill from his pocket. Mirko smiled and took the money. Thanks, I'll let his mother know about his absences. See you. She carried Izuku on her shoulder. Come on, kid, we can't waste any more time. Mirko jumped out the window, breaking it in the process. Nezu sighed in relief. Well, at least it was just a window. Mirko came back in through another window next to the one she broke earlier. By the way, I'll take his hero costume for training. I hope that's not a problem. Goodbye. Mirko jumped out again, breaking the last intact window in the room. Oh my, I'll have to dip into the security budget again. A few hours later, Izuku Midoriya had experienced many strange things in his life, but being in an adult woman's apartment was one of the weirdest. Izuku was changing into his hero costume. He looked in the mirror for a moment, still annoyed that those who repaired his suit had made so many changes to the one his mother gave him. They didn't even make it more durable, just a different design. At least it's comfortable and not as tight as some others, Izuku thought as he put on the mask. The last thing I want is a costume that squeezes my behind. Leaving the guest room where he changed, Izuku approached Rumi, who was sitting on the couch waiting for him. When she saw him, she jumped up and gave him a wild smile while pointing. All right, kid, I hope you're ready because I'm going to turn you into a killing machine these 2 weeks. I don't think that's necessary, Izuku shook his head. Just teaching me how to fight is enough. I still don't understand why you're doing this. It's a way to make up for the punch I gave you. And stop asking so many questions, it's rude to refuse a gift. Izuku blinked and sighed. Mirko opened the apartment window and leapt out. Wait, what? Izuku peered out the window, seeing Mirko had landed on a building. She frowned at him for not jumping. What are you waiting for? I want to see how good you are at moving, kid. Now get your behind over here with a jump. Izuku knew it wasn't a good idea to disobey her, so he sighed and took a few steps back. He took a deep breath, and 5% of one for all surged through his body. One for all, full cal 5%, Izuku gritted his teeth. Here I go. The green-haired boy ran toward the window and leapt with all his might. But he only made it halfway before he began to fall. The boy screamed in fear as he saw the pavement approaching. However, Mirko caught him before he hit the ground and landed in the street. She put Izuku down and kicked the pavement in frustration. Why didn't you make it? You don't seem half as strong as you were at the sports festival. I told you, I can control my quirk, but I can only use 5% of my power without hurting myself. I'm working to strengthen my body to master more power. So, you endure it, not control it, she said with her arms crossed. Don't overestimate yourself, kid. Anyone who can't use their full power in combat can't claim to control their power. I saw you stiffen when you jumped. You can't even use 100% of your 5%. She sighed and stood behind Izuku, then jumped onto his back. The boy instinctively caught her, but he felt nervous having a woman on his back. What are you doing? Stop screaming and move. You're going to run 20 kilometers using your quirk to get to our training spot. If you stop for even a second, I'm going to bite you. That's too much. It's only too much for whiners. Now run. With no other option, Izuku activated One for All and started running, making sure not to deactivate it or increase the percentage at any moment. 1 hour later, Izuku was extremely tired, with bite marks on his ear and sweating profusely. However, Rumi wouldn't let him rest. Izuku was forced to do 100 push-ups with Mirko sitting on his back, then 100 squats, and finally 100 sit-ups, all with a 10-minute break between each exercise to prevent him from injuring himself due to excess. Finally, Izuku stood in front of Mirko with her fists on her hips. First things first, I need to know how good you are at hitting, she said, crossing her arms. Attack me. Izuku didn't hesitate and leapt at her, charging 5% into his right arm and throwing a punch. Smash. However, Mirko effortlessly dodged it. Izuku stopped before falling flat on the ground and jumped at her again. Smash. She dodged it once more. Detroit smash. Mirko smiled and evaded the attack, her hair moving with the slight breeze. Smash. And once again, she dodged it. Several minutes passed, and Izuku couldn't land a hit on Mirko. He was breathing heavily, with his hands on his knees. She sighed in disappointment. You're too impulsive. You don't know how to seize openings. You're limited to using your fists, and every time you have a chance to do something useful, you end up doing the same thing, expecting a different result. How the heck did you survive until now? I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. Do you think villains care if you can't fight? No. They'll go straight for your head and boast about killing an aspiring hero. Stand firm. Izuku stood up, but he was very tired, to the point that he could barely maintain his posture. Pay attention. She stood in front of a tree. When you attack, go all out. Show no mercy, because they won't show any to you. Mirko kicked the tree, breaking it and making it fall. She ran to its side and kicked it, sending it flying into the air. Don't limit yourself to following a plan. Every time you see an opening, take it. She jumped and kicked the tree in mid-air, splitting it in two, reducing it to pieces of wood. And remember, you have legs, you idiot. She landed on the ground dramatically, kicking up dust. Now. Are you ready to train? Izuku was passed out on the ground because a piece of wood had hit his head, knocking him out. Mirko facepalmed at this. Izuku was throwing kicks at Mirko. The green-haired boy had removed the top half of his hero costume to breathe better and avoid overheating. Raise your leg higher, she said as she easily blocked his kick. Do you think that's being flexible? My grandma in a wheelchair is more flexible than that. Izuku continued training with the albino woman, using one for all the time, even for bathing, which led to more than one broken bathroom doorknob. The boy did all kinds of exercises to strengthen his body and then trained to improve his fighting skills. Slowly, Izuku began to move faster and faster, to the point where he seemed to leave a long streak of lightning with his movements. He was using 7% of one for all, and it hurt, but he could maintain it for a few seconds. As for the 5%, Izuku could move like a fish in water using it. And this was just after 1 week. He had also learned to kick and move like Mirko. Currently, Izuku was jumping alongside Mirko across the rooftops. The boy believed he had matched her speed, or at least that's what he thought. Mirko smiled and kicked the air as she leapt with Izuku by her side. Are you having fun, kid? Izuku landed on a sign and jumped again, this time much higher than before, using the 7%. Despite the pain in his legs, adrenaline kept him going. Of course, shorty. I told you not to call me that. Izuku had started to gain some confidence with the woman of darker skin, and he even gave her the nickname Shorty because she was shorter than him. This nickname often angered Mirko. Both were about to continue jumping when Rumi stopped on a building, took out her cell phone, and Izuku halted, deactivating his quirk. He let Mirko answer the phone call, and she hung up, looking at the green-haired boy. Listen, kid. I want you to go back to the apartment and wait for me. There's an emergency on the other side of the city that needs to be addressed. Why can't I go with you? That was another thing. When Mirko wasn't training him, she left him in her apartment and went to work as a heroine. Izuku felt like he should help her, but she was too stubborn. I already told you, I don't like working with anyone. I do my job alone. But I'm your friend. You should let me help. Excuse me? She raised an eyebrow. I'm just doing you a favor, kid. We're not friends, don't get things twisted. Then, if we're not friends, let me help you as a way to repay the favor. Heroes who team up with others to fight are cowards. They don't trust their own strength and prefer to rely on the strength of others. Unlike those losers, I trust my own strength. She turned away. Go to the apartment and wait for me. I'll be back in a while, and we'll continue your training. Mirko took a big leap and left, leaving Izuku with a worried expression. He then looked at his own fist, clenched it, and jumped with his quirk activated, following the rabbit hero. Run, it's a villain. A giant man with a turtle shell and horns was smashing everything, from cars to shops. He was laughing maliciously, causing terror among the citizens. His companions followed him as he continued to wreak havoc. But before things could escalate further, he received a powerful kick to the face from Mirko, which knocked him out cold on the ground. That's what you get for causing trouble in my territory, Mirko said, smiling savagely. She then stood guard to protect the civilians. One of the villain's henchmen attempted to attack her from behind, but she had heard him coming and was ready to dodge his strike and humiliate him quickly. However, before she could act, Izuku appeared and kicked the villain's henchman in the face, leaving him knocked out on the ground. The green-haired hero landed nearby. Rumi was about to scold him, but the other henchmen surrounded both Deku and Mirko. They stood back to back, ready to face the villains. Why are you here? I told you to go back to the apartment, she said, assuming a fighting stance. I don't need your help. I didn't come to help. I just wanted to test how much I've improved in my training, Izuku replied, assuming a fighting pose similar to Mirko's. She smiled slightly before her smile turned wild. Just don't get in my way, or I might accidentally hit you. We better prepare to die, idiots. It's 4 against 2. One of the villains shouted. Mirko was about to say something, but Izuku activated his one for all quirk. Then it won't be so unfair for you, Izuku said with a grin. Shall we dance? The villain lunged at Izuku, his hand transforming into a giant thorn. Izuku waited until he was close, then ducked and kicked up his arm, allowing Mirko to deliver a powerful kick to the villain, knocking him out and breaking part of the ground. Another villain tried to run, but before he could escape, Izuku appeared in front of him, punching him in the stomach. He then lifted him by the arm and threw him into the air. With a strong jump, Izuku reached the falling villain and delivered a 3-kick combo that sent him crashing to the ground, shattering the concrete. However, Izuku didn't stop there. He dropped onto the villain, delivering a double kick to the stomach, leaving him breathless. Izuku stood up and narrowly dodged another villain's punch. He grabbed the villain's arm and threw him toward Mirko, who performed a spinning kick that knocked 2 teeth out. Then, she leapt into the air, preventing another villain from grabbing her around the waist and clearing the way for Izuku to approach the remaining foe. Detroit. Izuku charged his fist with 7%. Smash! With a powerful blow, Izuku knocked out the last of the villains. He smiled at his victory but received a slap. I told you to stop yelling the names of your attacks, Mirko scolded him. At most, think it while you attack, but don't shout it. You're giving the villain a heads up and wasting time. I'm sorry. Whatever. You did a good job not getting in my way. In my way? But I even helped you win faster. I told you to stop calling me that. While they argued, the people were confused. Was this guy a new partner of Mirko's? They had never seen her with any companion before, she always worked alone. Izuku felt someone stumble into him and heard the person fall. When he turned around, he saw a hooded figure of about his age with a face mask. Hey, I'm sorry. Are you okay? Izuku extended his hand. The person ignored Izuku's hand and got up on their own. Then, they stared intently at the green-haired hero. You're a hero. Well, I'm still a student, hee, the green-haired hero said, scratching his head. The way you fought. You felt like a free spirit, right? Filled with adrenaline. Izuku felt a bit uncomfortable because a stranger had asked him this. Now he understood how people felt when he bluntly asked about their quirks. But something worried him, the boy's gaze was too familiar, eerily so. So, you can use your quirk freely. That's cool, the stranger commented. Eh? Izuku blinked in confusion. Never mind. You shouldn't get closer to me. He hid under his hoodie and quickly left. Izuku was a bit concerned about the boy's attitude. However, Mirko placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's go, she said. Izuku weakly nodded and followed Mirko with a jump. Meanwhile, the boy from earlier slipped into an alley and breathed heavily. A knot formed in his throat, and some purple smoke escaped his mouth. It hurts. It hurts a lot, he whispered. I need to let it out. But I might hurt someone, ugh. The boy spat out some blood as the pain in his body intensified. To hell with it, he exclaimed while crying. Then, a bunch of purple smoke poured out of his mouth. With Deku and Mirko. I told you not to come, Mirko scolded, leaping. I don't need help. I told you I didn't come to help. I just wanted to see how good I am in combat. Don't play dumb. She growled as she leapt. Your intentions are clear. I'm not weak enough for you to worry about me. I don't worry about you because you're weak. I know you're not, he said, annoyed. I worry because you've helped me a lot, and I don't want to sit back while you do everything alone. I'm supposed to be a hero one day, just like you. Ha ha, she shook her head while smiling. Don't get too cocky, kid. There's only one Mirko in the world, and you're looking at her. There's no one like me. Well, maybe I can come a little closer. At least, I'll be taller. Stop making fun of my height. Izuku was about to reply, but he noticed something purple in the sky. He stopped at a building and turned to see how the sky and a large part of the city were being covered by purple gas. Izuku looked at Mirko, who was crouching on top of a water tank. They locked eyes for a moment before they acted. Izuku put on his mask, and Rumi tore a piece of her suit to use as a mask. Then they both jumped in the direction of the purple cloud. Upon reaching it, Izuku tried to use his Delaware Smash to disperse the air, but his 7% wasn't enough. He watched as Mirko entered the smoke and came out with several people in her arms. However, she was getting tired. The boy frowned, clenched his fist, and made a decision. One for all. Izuku raised his hand, pointing it at the smoke. 100% his finger was surrounded by green lightning. Delaware smash. A strong gust of wind easily dispersed the smoke, revealing a horrifying scene. Many people lay unconscious on the ground, some just writhing in pain. Mirko hurried to help, while Izuku held his finger in slight pain. Then he looked around for the source of the smoke, finding it came from an alley. He rushed to the alley and found the same boy from earlier, sitting on the ground, breathing heavily. "Stay away from me." The boy got agitated as soon as he saw Izuku. "Go away." "Hey, calm down." Izuku raised his hands in an attempt to soothe him. "I think I understand why you're doing this." "Hey! What are you waiting for?" Mirko appeared. "We need to help the..." Mirko stopped looking at Izuku and focused on the boy, realizing the poison was coming from his body. "So, you're the one responsible for this." She smiled. "Good job, kid. At least you served to catch the culprit." Mirko was about to jump towards the boy to deliver a strong blow, but Izuku stood between them to stop her. "Wait." He stopped her. "Move. I need to knock him out before he releases more gas." "Maybe he has his reasons." He shook his head. That look he had. It's the look of someone who envies people with good quirks, who envies how much fun they have using them. I know when someone has that look. The boy with the mask was quite surprised by what Izuku said. However, Mirko crossed her arms, and her brain quickly connected the dots. "I get it now," she said, now calmer as she turned to the boy. "Hey, can't you control your power?" The boy froze for a moment under their gazes, then suddenly collapsed to the ground, crying. "Why yes, my quirk is a powerful poisonous gas, but since I was a kid, I unconsciously released it. That's why I wore this mask." He took a mask out of his pocket, the one he had been wearing before. "But if I don't release even a bit of the poison, it accumulates inside me, and even though I'm supposed to resist it, it's just too much. It hurts a lot." The boy began to cry more intensely, causing Izuku to have a lump in his throat at the sight. "I've wanted to release it several times, but using quirks in public is prohibited. I tried to endure it, but the pain keeps increasing every moment. I had to let it out, or I was going to die. Does that make me a villain? Is it wrong not to want to die? Do you know what it feels like to have everything inside you burning, every damn day of your life? Do you?" "Release it," Izuku said with a serious tone. "Eh? Have you gone crazy?" Rumi asked, frowning. "I'm sad about this too, but we can't risk more people getting hurt." "I know what I'm doing," Izuku said, taking the boy's shoulder. "If you release all your poison, you'll be fine, right? I've been holding this in for years. What I just released is only 20%. It's too much." "I know what I'm doing," Izuku assured him. "Trust me, I know what it's like to endure so much pain inside you with no one to help. I have a plan, and I know it'll work. Now I need you to trust me." Izuku removed his mask, showing a big smile to the boy. For some reason, it filled him with confidence and calmness, as if everything was okay because he was here. "Now, Mirko," he looked at the heroine next to him. "I need you to throw him into the sky as high as you can. Then you," he looked at the boy. "I need you to release all your gas when you feel like you can't go any higher. When I say all, I mean all, not a bit. Are you sure about this? How are you going to neutralize the gas?" the boy asked. Izuku looked at his right arm for a moment, knowing perfectly well what he was going to do. "Let's just say this is going to hurt tomorrow. Kid, remember that I'm the professional here. We're not doing this unless I give the green light. A hero's job is not just about defeating the bad guys. It's about saving people," Izuku said, looking at her, standing firmly in a striking position. "Help me save him." She looked at him seriously, waiting for him to lose his composure under her gaze. However, he didn't. Mirko smiled at that and grabbed the boy's shirt. "Then let's do it." Mirko spun several times with the boy in her hands and then, using her great strength, she tossed him up into the sky. The boy went even higher than the tallest building in the city. When he reached his highest point, the boy released all the gas he had inside, forming a huge purple cloud. Izuku sighed as he saw it, and then One for All manifested in his arm. Texas. Izuku jumped onto the roof of a building and then increased his power to 100% as he charged his attack. Smash! And then, he struck the air. The power of his attack created a cyclone just from the force of his punch, dispersing the gas with extreme ease, even clearing the clouds around it. Mirko was impressed by such a display of power, but she reacted in time and caught the gas-afflicted boy before he fell, on the verge of unconsciousness. "The pain. It's gone," the boy smiled as small tears fell from his eyes. Thank you, heroes. Mirko smiled and landed on the same building as Izuku. She was about to comment on what had just happened, but her smile disappeared when she noticed that Izuku's arm was broken and bleeding. However, the green-haired boy hadn't lost his smile. Can we please go to the hospital?